going to hear the voice today of a school librarian at Great Bridge Primary. I had a great fortune to work with some years ago. Liz, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Hanging in there, adjusting, learning every single day. We're learning something new and, connecting with something new, and a trying time, but in its own way, a great growing and learning time, I think, for teachers and resource people, librarians, the people that work in technology. It's been quite the ride so far.
Yeah. So I know we were talking earlier and you have an 11-year-old son. How are you managing your home? Like, what's your process? What's your way of?
Well, it's very hard. He's in 5th grade and we are not in the same school system. We live in Larchmont up in Norfolk, and he has become more independent, I think, than when he was at the beginning. It is extremely, extremely difficult to manage. Almost what started out as teaching your child, but still having to teach your children, your school children. I think that what we have done that made it more helpful is creating a very specific schedule that he's got a copy of it on his desk area. I have a copy of it. And, sometimes if he's absolutely stuck and he needs help, I have to hit the pause button and I have to, if I'm not on a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet, I have to kind of put that, that teacher side aside, the teacher hat aside, and put that mom hat on. And I think as teachers, I think primary teachers are warm and fuzzy. So we kind of have, half a teacher hat and then the warm snuggly hat. But I think for most teachers, that's very, very difficult because we have our job with our children and our students who we love so much. And then we kind of come home and we have to transition from that, kind of the teacher at school to being mom again, or, for the other workers that are in this situation, the dad again, and just having to balance them. It's very stressful because I feel like sometimes you feel torn in between who are my responsibilities now? Here is my family sitting right here needing help with their school, but yet here is my job, my responsibility. And we love those students very much too. So I think after a couple weeks, we're beginning to figure out a routine, but definitely not there yet. It's just unbelievable that we have a situation like we do.
Right. I talked to a teacher the other day, an elementary school teacher who has like 3 kids, 5 and under. It's a lot to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a lot. And it's a lot of scheduling and flexibility. And, all day long, we have this structure of a schedule, whether or not, whatever your job may be. And then, especially with children and our own children, they don't understand that structure needs to stay in place because everything around them is different. People, mom and dad are there with them. Well, that's like a great time, right? We're supposed to be at home doing the kinds of things that we do with mom and dad, riding bikes, working in the yard, going to a movie, going to see, that's their home structure. And so they've had to rearrange all that in their little minds. And, so have we. Yeah. And it's hard is not the word. I think there's a whole mixture of, it can be frustrating, it can be very rewarding when something actually works, or if you see something that's becoming smoother. So I do think that it it's adjusting, but we're not quite adjusted.
Right, right.
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I could believe that. So
Yes.
let me ask you this: as a librarian, I was interested to talk to you. What kind of ways are you finding that you're able to support the students in your school? What kind of activities?
Actually, well, of course, we don't have our classes coming in and out of the library, but I've been so busy because, and especially once phase 3 and the teachers are meeting with their kids, and what I've been trying to do is, the teachers are very overwhelmed, as is everybody. But as they're developing their plans for this phase 3 and the new material that they're doing, with, their PLCs online, and, oh my gosh, this link isn't working. What I have done is I've gone through the SOLs for each grade level from, we are primary, so from pre-K to second grade. And I've gone through all of the resources that we have that are open to us right now. So we've got some great publishers out there that have opened up their ebooks and activities and guides that go along with them to go through, 18 books from this publisher, 17 books from this publisher. We've kind of gone through and picked the ones that match the SOL, some nonfiction ones. We have been able to get into Tumble books through the public library. They have been wonderful. But we have created extensive lists so that they don't have to take their time out of their planning or out of their meetings or out of their students and teaching time. They have what is in table format, SOL science, boom. Here are your capstone books that match your SOLs. Boom. Here are your Lightbox books that match your SOLs. Boom. This is what we searched from Tumble books. Here is the link. Boom. And, we have just put direct links into there. I have my friend Nikki and I, Martel from Butts Road, have been working very hard at creating this because the teachers have to plan ahead. Well, we can't wait until that week in order to get resources to them, because they need to have all of their options and what they're allowed to do as far as accessing resources and sharing resources and determining, is this a public, is this a public classroom or a private classroom? Because some of the publishers have put in restrictions on that. Yes, you can use all our material if it's a closed classroom. And so, of course, their classrooms that they're meeting with those students with are closed classrooms. So just assuring them what they're allowed to use and supplying just the easiest links. And most of those links that we've worked on can be embedded into their instructional slideshows. So, and finally, on the Google Meets, we've been going into a lot of Google Meets. I have, and the kids are all happy and excited and reading books and giving activities. Today I read I'm Bored. I thought that was a very good choice. And it's about this little kid who's obviously very bored, and she comes across a potato, and here's my potato. He's very bored too. I'm bored, I'm bored. But it's just a book for kids to kind of use their imagination to realize that, yeah, it is kind of boring to be stuck in the house all the time and, not be able to go out and play with our friends, or not be able to go to whatever, baseball, Little League, Girl Scouts. But this little book here comes up with a lot of ideas. How do you use your mind in a situation like that, even for little kids? And it's funny because it has a talking potato. So yes. What I've asked for them to do is create their own potato. They can create it however they want, and then they can share what they've created on my Google Classroom. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I get. So, you know, we've been joining classrooms, we've been joining their meets and their greets and their instructional time, and supporting them with read alouds in their classrooms, their virtual classrooms. And, you know, it's great for me because I don't get to see those little smiling faces, you know, and unless I'm in there with a meeting. So lots of different stuff going on.
Yeah. So I know that normally in the normal, when we're in school, I know that a big part of the job of a school librarian is collaboration.
Yes.
But now it's like collaboration on steroids, isn't it? I mean,
it is collaboration on steroids, Richie. That's exactly what it is. So this is what we have. We have our all staff PLC. We have our resource PLC. And then within resources, you know, of course, we have music, PE, library, art. So then we have whatever our specific resource PLC is. And then we have grade levels. So we have a grade level PLC for kindergarten to see what's up with them. We have a first grade PLC meeting. So we go to PLC meeting and see what's up with them. So basically, we're looking at 6, maybe 7 PLC meetings a week for collaboration purposes. So it's a lot.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of time. I bet there have been a lot of new computer chairs sold over the past month that have lumbar support and are very, very, very easy to sit in for long periods of time.
Yeah, I bet.
Yes.
So how many times a week are you getting to actually see and work with the students?
Really after phase 3 opened up was when that really, really started. So I had a reading this morning at 9 o'clock with a first grade classroom. And I think now I probably have scheduled, gosh, maybe 12 or 13 this week to go into their meets. But I think I wish if I could say that, I don't know, not to do it differently, because it's really fun. It's really fun to go in there and see them, but also to be able to have that time during the week. You know, say if I have a second grade class, and schedule wise, it's crazy, I know, and I don't have the answer to any of this scheduling stuff. We need a schedule fairy to come in and kind of, you know, do our schedule. But just to have a time with every class to read, or every grade level. These kids are so amazing. They are so amazing on this technology. And listening to expectations, you know, they mute their mics. So if you have a read aloud and you say, okay, everybody mute your mic, they mute their mics, you know, and you can go on, and then, you know, you have all their faces and in boxes. So, you know, we are getting there. I think as more people are aware that we're out there ready for you, we want to, you know, and I think, you know, my school definitely knows that. And, you know, I send out emails all the time, you know, what are you guys doing this week? You know, can I sneak in and, you know, read a book? Can I, you know, hang out with your kids? And I think it took a little bit of time for teachers to hook on to that kind of collaboration, because they were just so overwhelmed. So overwhelmed. But last week and this week, as they become more familiar, then, you know, we get to do a little bit more than just providing resources and actually see our students.
Yeah. What would you say, obviously there's a million challenges, but what's good has come out of this? What are the bright spots you think of this virtual environment?
Well, school or personal or both or everything?
Primarily school, but both.
Okay, so let's talk about school. Okay. I think that the whole PLC and collaboration piece that goes into teaching today is kind of solid, but sporadic. I mean, you know, you always have your people that are your sharers, your collaborators, and it has solidified those relationships in between grade level teams. They see each other all the time. You know, they have scheduled times. They've been not forced, but happily share ideas with each other because it makes things so much better for the kids. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to put that in as an optional activity. You know, I didn't even think about that. I think I'm going to pop my slide in and say, listen, you know, if you want to do a really great activity, here's another one that so-and-so came up with. So I think that it's definitely strengthened collaboration, even though most schools are very good at that anyway. And we've been moving toward that for several years. Yeah. I think the second very important thing that came out of this in a good way, in a positive way, is the knowledge that teachers and everybody have gained over technology. I mean, whereas when you're in your classroom and you have all of these electronic resources, the Chromebooks, the logins, the Google Drive, that has, you know, slowly just become so important to what we do. You know, we have had to become experts on Google. And I think that that knowledge of new technology out there can only strengthen everybody, not just teachers, but that's where we're moving towards. This gave us a kick. It said, you know what? Yeah. It's here. You know, sorry, we thought we had some time, but we don't. Yeah. So it was kind of like a kick for people to step up their game and really have to learn hard things about Google Drive much quicker than they probably were comfortable with, or they would have, you know, over the next year. So I think those are the two strongest things.
Yeah, well, that's quite a bit. Well, Liz, look, you sounds like you have a very busy schedule, so I'm going to let you get back to it. I really appreciate your time, and I want you to know that the parents and everybody out here is very appreciative of all the work.
Well, you know what? It's not just us. Right. It's everybody. You know, it's not easy for families either, and when they log their kids in or when they take the time to, you know, write a little splurge on, you know, on our Google page or our classroom page, it makes your teachers feel wonderful. So, you know, talking about collaboration, community collaboration is really, I think, what's made this happen.
All right. Well, look, thank you so much. It's great to talk to you.
You too. You too.
Thanks.
And I hope that sometime, some way, sometime soon, that everybody can be talking together. I mean, this is great and wonderful. I'm so happy to see you. But, you know, it's kind of nice to be, you know, in person.
It is. Yeah, yes. It is.
It is. So,
all right, Liz, thank you very much. Keep it up, and we appreciate you.
Good. You take good care, Richie.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.